Welcome back to Papa's Home, where today we're going to plant fruit trees. There's really three main parts to this project. I'm going to connect the drip lines, plant the tree, then make sure it has plenty of fertilizer and mulch. This will make sure that the plant has all the nutrients it needs so that it'll have a nice healthy start. So the first thing we'll do is pick our location. And since these are kumquat trees, I think they'll look really good against the blue shutters. And after giving it a few days of moving the barrels around, I finally picked my location. So what I'm using to plant these are wine barrels. They were a little bit expensive. Since I had them delivered, they were close to $100 each. You'll notice when I get closer that there's a couple of holes at the bottom, and this will be good for drainage. One of the first things I'll do is tip the wine barrel over. Then I'll take this 1/4-inch drip tube and feed it up through the bottom. Since the material is cheap, I'm being liberal with the length. And though I'm using PVC cutters for the 1/4-inch tubing, I actually recommend using a razor blade. That way you get a nice clean cut. The next thing I'll do is go to my drip line. In a previous video, I had this installed and then capped it off. Now that I'm ready to use it, I'll take these PVC cutters and cut it so it's about 3 inches off the ground. Now that it's been cut, I'm going to connect my fittings. I picked out these fittings from a company called Dig. This first connection is a threaded elbow. The second piece is a pressure regulator. This will make sure that the pressure stays below 25 psi. And this final T-fitting actually has a filter that'll help catch some of the minerals. I can make 2 connections that'll go towards my plants. This last piece I picked up from Home Depot. I think it cost about $1. All this is doing is taking a 3/4-inch slip fit and converting it to a 1/2-inch threaded fitting. And that piece will help me connect the white PVC pipe to the black drip line conversion kit. I'll put a link to some of these materials in the description. The next thing I'll do is grab my PVC solvent kit. This comes with primer and glue. In one of my other videos, I go into detail about how to glue pipes together. Just to keep things moving along, I'll put a link in the description. Now before I glue anything together, I want to make sure that I do a dry fit first. So the first thing I'll do is put my threaded connection on first. That way everything's nice and tight. Once I have a tight connection, I'll slide it on and just make sure everything fits. This will also give me a chance to figure out what direction that I want this pointing. Since the barrel's in the way, I'm going to angle this a little bit. Fortunately, drip lines are very flexible, so it won't be a big deal. And just to speed things along, I went ahead and glued this off camera. In one of my previous videos, I explained how to build a sprinkler manifold, and I had to glue a lot of pipes. If you have any questions about that process, I recommend watching that one. But for now, this will give you a rough idea of what things look like. So in these next steps, I'm letting the 1/2-inch tubing sit in the sun. This will make it a little bit more easy to work with. Once I get a rough idea of the length, I'll just cut it with a razor blade. Then when I connect it to the T, it just slides in, no glue required. And I'll make sure to do this on both sides. Now, I'm ready to connect my barbed elbows. And in order to do that, I'm going to need my Pro Punch. This tool will punch a hole in the 1/2-inch tubing, which allows you to connect the barbed elbows. So what I do is I pick my location, punch the hole off to the side a little bit, and then I'll connect the barbed elbow. One thing to note is that I wish I used a straight connection. There is no need to use an elbow, but it seemed convenient at the time. So the next thing I'll do is take my 1/4-inch tubing and connect it to that barb. Now if I were to do this again, I would actually connect the barb to the 1/4-inch tube first. It was pretty difficult to connect the 1/4-inch line, but really easy to put it in the 1/2-inch line. So if I changed my order of operations a little bit, I think it would have been a little bit easier. So now that those connections are made, you can see that the wine barrel is full of dirt. At this point, I'm ready to plant the tree. After putting on some gloves, I dig a small hole, then I start to massage the plant to get it out of its bin, and then I just put it in the barrel. After that, I start pushing the dirt in around it, and I'll try to shape the soil to be like a small basin, so that the water falls towards the roots. Now the drip line is almost ready. Just a few more connections to go. At both ends of the 1/2-inch tubing, I need to put this end connector. Think of it as an end cap. You have one side that screws on, and the other one that slides on the end. So what I'll do is I'll push that end through, and then screw on the cap. That'll keep it watertight. Now I'm ready to test out the water. Though it technically isn't ready to go, I kind of want to make a point here. Remember earlier when I installed a pressure regulator? That'll make sure that the pressure is below 25 psi, which is very low. Once I turn the sprinklers on, you can see just how much water is flowing through that small 1/4-inch tube, and that's with low pressure. If I didn't have that pressure regulator, some of my connections would just burst right off. So the next thing I'll do, I'll connect another barbed elbow, and this will connect to a soaker hose. This is a very sponge-like material. When water's flowing through it, it kind of just leaks out. What I like about this is that I can evenly distribute the water throughout the entire barrel. That way I can make sure that it's getting plenty of water and that the roots are encouraged to grow out to the sides. Then at the end of the soaker hose, I put a small little barb. That way the water comes out of the sides of the hose instead of at the end. And this is what the soaker hose looks like when water is flowing through it. After measuring the flow rate, I can tell you that it drips at about half a gallon per minute. Now that we're close to the finish line, I'm going to take a half a cup of fertilizer. This stuff is made just for citrus trees. It'll help keep the leaves bright and green, it'll help it produce lots of fruit, and make sure that the tree is nice and healthy so that it's resistant to disease. And just to help mix this in, I'm going to take a garden hose and just mix it in with the dirt. I didn't want to use the drip line because I don't think it would mix it as effectively. Once I felt like it mixed with the soil nicely, then I was ready to add the mulch. And if you've seen some of my other videos, I like to use cedar mulch. It lasts a little bit longer, the bugs don't really like it, and it'll keep the roots nice and warm. And that's pretty much it. Now in a couple of years, I expect to get lots of kumquats. The last thing I'll mention is that this whole project took me about 4 hours. That's because I had to make lots of trips to Home Depot, because I've never done this before. But I also recently planted another tree, and since I knew what I was doing, it only took me about 2 hours. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you learned a lot. If you like this one or other ones you've seen, I'd really appreciate it if you could support me. All you have to do is hit the like or subscribe button. In addition, if you want to donate to this series, there's a link to our Patreon below. You can be a member for as low as $1 per month. In addition, be sure to check out some of my other videos when it comes to plumbing, sprinklers, or even fruit trees. I hope to make many more videos like this one. So as always, thanks for stopping by.